Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and my guest today is a friend of mine who was on my program previously, Ann Dinshah from the American Vegan Society. Her father founded the American Vegan Society in 1960. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me back, Gail. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's nice. Let's see, I guess we were going to start out by showing a picture of somebody that you met when you were just a little girl. You're in the picture too.
Okay.
Scott and Helen Nearing. Now, is that a relative of yours to the far right?
Well, I like to think of him as a relative. That's Brian Graff. He's the president of the North American Vegetarian Society, and he was a co-op, like an intern at American Vegan Society back in the 70s. And we actually share the same birthday, New Year's Eve. So I think that means we're related.
New Year's Eve?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
We're definitely related. But the other two people in the picture are Helen and Scott Nearing. Scott's the one holding me. So I was about 4 in that picture. And that's at their place in Maine. And we were putting on the World Vegetarian Congress in Orono, Maine. And Scott and Helen were helping the North American Vegetarian Society put that convention on. And it had 1,500 people come to it. It was the first World Vegetarian Congress in this country. And my dad, although he had already founded American Vegan Society, people weren't quite ready for vegan yet, so he also founded the North American Vegetarian Society just so he could put on this conference. And then that second organization exists to this day, and Brian and his wife Sharon do an excellent job running that. And now they put on, they still do the conference every year, but it's called Vegetarian Summerfest.
I think there's a chapter about them in your Powerful Vegan Messages book?
Yes, in the book Powerful Vegan Messages, we had a lot of people come forward and write really fun chapters about their interaction with my dad and how they were influenced to do the work that they do promoting veganism. So Brian and Sharon definitely wrote a great chapter in there and mentioned Helen and Scott Nearing as influences. And Helen and Scott Nearing were amazing people, not just in promoting...
I read some of their books. I just happened to read some of their books last year.
Well, they didn't just promote vegetarianism and veganism, but they really did a lot with homesteading and teaching people how to grow their own organic food. And for me, the biggest influence was I fell in love with their houses and their outbuildings, and they built everything themselves from stone. So now I have a cabin that the foundation is built just like they did, stone by stone, mixing the concrete by hand. And I really appreciate the work that they put into it.
Yeah. And I think they used to write articles for Organic Gardening magazine too, didn't they? At one
Probably,
time?
Yeah. They were real pioneers in what they were doing, getting back to the land and promoting it and teaching people. Okay.
There's a cute story, and it is in your Dating Vegans book. I read it there. But you also told the story the last time you spoke at one of our Vegetarian Society dinners. It's about the guy that you dated for a while that you went shopping at a thrift store with.
Well, I had so many wonderful experiences. It was a pleasure to put them all together in a book. But this one particular guy, his name's Robert, and I fell for him on the first date. As in, I truly fell for him right down the steps of the coffee shop. And so when I bounced back up again, we continued with our date, and he noticed how graceful I was, and he invited me on a second date. But he had one special request, because he likes to play dress up and he likes theater, and he just wanted to look through my closet and pick what I would wear to go dancing. And so, yeah, combining my wardrobe with my gracefulness, dancing was just going to be perfect. So I wound up wearing a lacy number out of his closet. And then we decided our third date was to go to the thrift store. And thrift stores are a great place, especially if you're like me and you're not really sure what looks good on you, what you're going to invest your money in buying, and you want to just try on a whole lot of different things. Plus, I like that clothes are getting a second chance. And so I find it a fun place to go, well, if I liked shopping, which I still don't like shopping, but with him, it was a great experience. So he picked out a whole big pile of clothes for me to try on, and all I had to do was go in the dressing room and say yes, no, maybe. And then he noticed I neglected an item, and it was a leather halter top. And I said, you know, I'm not going to get it. There's no point in trying. It's leather. I'm vegan. But he had such a dejected look, and he had worked so hard picking out these items that he convinced me to put it on just for a couple seconds and check it out. So the multitude of metal fasteners confused me, and I required his assistance in adjusting it. Then he turned me around to the mirror, where I didn't recognize the slutty vixen looking back at me. She had power. I was truly tempted. And then my mind played a video of a cow hanging upside down in her last living moments. She had worn it before me, proudly, where it belonged. So although the tags may have said that it was new, unworn, despite being at a thrift shop, I knew better. And that day I proudly concluded that I could never wear somebody else's skin and expect a man to take me seriously in my own.
Thank you for telling us that story. It's pretty inspirational.
Thank you. So many people think being vegan is just about the food, and food is a huge part of it. But when you understand the whole industry and how the slaughterhouses have to make money off of every possible part of the animal, that the leather is just as much a part as the meat is, that I just really can't support the leather industry either. And so it takes a little more thinking about, because people do associate it so much with the food aspect. But it's getting much easier to get great clothing as well. And so I brought some great new vegan boots along today.
Yes, yes.
I don't normally put my feet on tables,
there's
but
somebody wearing a pair.
I could go like this.
And there's somebody wearing a pair on this, on the front cover of the new issue of American Vegan magazine.
Yes,
her name is Kat Mendenhall from Dallas, Texas.
Yes, yes, and she decided to go vegan, and then she realized that she couldn't find any vegan cowboy boots. What is she going to do? So she had to start her own company.
Oh, did she really?
She did.
And it's a pair of her boots that you're wearing now? Okay.
Yes.
And they are made out of what?
Well, it's a good thing that I brought this magazine with me, so I can just tell you what it's made out of, because I'm not so good at memorizing exactly what it's made of. In fact, in this issue, we not only have the story of Kat, but we have some other shoe companies in here.
Well, actually, I'm wearing vegan shoes. These are made of hemp and cotton.
Ah, good. Thanks for the time to find this page here. Okay. They have a leather green look, but are made of a specifically engineered nylon or polyester fiber matrix. So there's no PVC or off-gassing in the production. And besides being cruelty-free, they are made to order and customizable. So.
Yeah, and they are breathable and they are comfortable.
Yeah, they're great. And I wear them with dresses, jeans, to all sorts of occasions. I wore them recently to a gala, and I got a lot of compliments on them.
Was it a vegan gala?
It was a vegan gala, thrown by American Vegan Society in New Jersey. But I was debating, do you wear the typical heels or do I go for the cowboy boots? And I figured I could get away with it because I'd be promoting what was just on our magazine. And there were so many people who wished that they had worn something more comfortable because I had a great time on the dance floor.
Yeah, you see a lot of people at special events, wedding receptions and all kinds of things wearing high-heeled shoes and all kinds of stuff, you know, like 5-inch heels.
Well, I do own some of them too, but you know, I think I've become a little more practical, where these I'm gonna wear, you know, to so many different occasions. And there's always a debate, like I just said, that I go through shopping at a thrift store, but yet I'm wearing fairly expensive, you know, handmade cowboy boots. And so you wonder, like, whether I'm endorsing, you know, buying stuff that's really expensive, and how does that fit in with my simple lifestyle? And I think that the value really comes in how many times I'm going to wear these boots, and that I'm buying them from a company that I believe in, and that they paid their people a living wage. And so you can't just look at the price tag of what they mark on a piece of clothing. You have to look at all the other things behind it. So it makes me proud to wear them.
Okay, I have something I just wanted to let any of you know about, any of you who might actually want to know the truth about what goes on in the slaughterhouses. If you do, you can go to PETA and text TRUTH to 73822. The name of the DVD, which is narrated by Paul McCartney, is called Glass Walls. Paul says if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would be vegetarian. Animals raised on modern factory farms and killed in slaughterhouses endure almost unimaginable suffering. I hope that once you see the routine cruelty involved in raising, transporting, and killing animals for food, you'll join the millions of people who have decided to leave meat off their plates for good. Signed, Paul McCartney. And the name of it is called Glass Walls. But if you have small children or really squeamish people in your family, you might not want them in the room when they watch it. Okay, we'll get back to our interview now. Carl and I attended a Veg Fest in Erie the last Saturday in September. It was their first annual one. And we actually, at the end of the afternoon, Carl and I had a chance to sit at a table with Victoria Moran and have a conversation with her. I also told her about this TV program, and I gave her the website of the studio so she could look at some of my episodes if she wants to. And I said, if you ever find yourself having to come to the Western New York area for something, think about possibly being on my TV show so I can interview you. And she said she would if she was out this way at any time.
So let's tell people who Victoria Moran is.
Yes, tell us who Victoria Moran is. But I did want to mention that she did say that she spent a lot of time with your parents when she was younger, and that they never gave up on her and treated her like she was already vegan before she was. So you go ahead, you know her better than I do, obviously.
Well, Victoria is best known as being the author of the book Main Street Vegan. And she runs the Main Street Vegan Academy in New York City, where people can go for a very intense week of studying the vegan lifestyle to become educators and coaches for other people. A lot of her students or graduates have gone on to be vegan entrepreneurs, like Kat here. She's a graduate of the Main Street Vegan Academy. But there are lots of people who do that. Many of them are also vegan information points through American Vegan Society. So there are people scattered all throughout the country who provide vegan information. about what there is to do locally in your area. But Victoria herself has been vegan for a long, long time, and she hosted my dad when he was traveling through where she lived, whether it was in Chicago or other areas in the Midwest. And she was always so thankful and so appreciative of my dad's efforts, and always encouraging. He was always encouraging her to, you know, just keep trying and keep working on becoming vegan if that's what she wanted to do. And so now she is, I think she was voted the sexiest vegan over 50.
That's what she was saying when she gave her talk at the Veg Fest. Yes.
And so that was an honor from PETA.
Well, she also told us that she's actually 66 years old. Mm-hmm. She's just a year younger than me, and she is gorgeous. She really, really is. And she also said some things in her talk that day that really resonated with me, and even kind of reminded me of myself, where she said, I don't have any of those health issues that most people, those age-related health issues most people my age have, and I'm not on any of those pharmaceuticals that they have to take for them. And I thought, well, she sounds like that's pretty much the same thing that I've been saying to people. You know, I remember the last time I went for an eye doctor checkup, the eye doctor asked me if I was on any new medications. And I said no. And he goes, I'm 67, I just turned 67 in September. And I said no, and he said, oh, aren't you on Coumadin or a blood pressure medication or anything? And I said, no. And he goes, oh, you're healthy then. I mean, you could tell that most of the people in my age group that he sees must be on those medications. Mm-hmm. if he's talking to me like that, you know, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah, it's
that
really
he
sad.
assumed that I was on those medications.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really sad, the state of the health in this country for most people, and mm-hmm. what is assumed to be normal. Mm-hmm. But people like Victoria are shattering those myths by mm-hmm. showing how healthy you really can be.
Mm-hmm. And she's so slender and everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, she does some things to stay in shape. She does yoga. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yoga.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite things.
She's even been known to come to my class occasionally when I'm at a conference and I do
the rowing classes?
It's not a rowing class. When I'm at a conference, I do basic calisthenics. It's like cross-training for rowing. But when I'm at a vegan conference, then mm-hmm. sometimes they ask me to do something that anybody can participate in. And so she's come and worked out with me, and mm-hmm. it was a pleasure to be with her.
Yeah, I'm glad I had the chance to meet her. Mm-hmm. And then there was another married couple that gave a talk, our bodybuilders, you know, with the big mm-hmm. hunky muscles and everything. It's a married couple, and they're vegan, mm-hmm. and the husband is like certified to teach mm-hmm. nutrition and everything, and they got up there and did this wonderful, marvelous talk about nutrition, and they don't eat anything that comes from an animal, and yet here's this really hunky man, you know, with all of these big muscles, mm-hmm. without eating any meat to mm-hmm. put it on. So,
well, I think it takes having people who look all different sizes, mm-hmm. but all look very healthy. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's not to say that you can't be vegan and live on French fries and soda or something like that. But you know, the people who do it smartly, mm-hmm. who learn about the bounty of plant foods, really do start to look healthier. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's kind of a fun advantage that you're being kind to the animals and you're getting healthier in the process.
And you're benefiting the environment.
And the environment, yeah. People don't realize that it takes 3 1/4 acres to feed someone on the standard American diet.
Right.
But you can do it for like 1/6 of an acre if mm-hmm. you're just eating the plants.
Mm-hmm. And then there was a Dr. Oppenlander that was there. Have you met him?
I had the pleasure of hearing him speak at Vegetarian Summerfest, and yeah, he's very good on the environment.
There. And he did, his talk was on, you know, it was kind of reminded me of the one that Al Gore did, except that what he was talking about was all of the parts that Al Gore left out of global warming and global climate change. It was...
well, it's not popular to ask people to change what they eat. It's so ingrained in our culture. And so I don't ask people to change what they're eating. I ask them to think about what their choices are and make sure that those are really the choices that they really stand for. And for the most part, people just haven't thought about it. They're just eating what their parents have fed them and what society generally provides.
Okay, now talking about educating people. I remember when I spoke to you, I think it was back on the phone one day back in the month of March, and you were talking about wanting Ann Watkins and I to help you educate the local restaurants in Chautauqua County to start preparing vegan options so that vegans could go to a restaurant and have more choices than just a tossed salad to order. At first I thought that you meant talking the restaurants into letting us come in and show them how to prepare the foods, show the professional chefs how to prepare the food. And, but then when you came in June, when you were here in June, at our Vegetarian Society dinner, you were talking about progressive dinners. So we will have already had one in the Fredonia area by the time this episode airs, but you're planning on having more and doing some other things with the restaurants too. You want to talk about that a little?
Sure. Well, basically, we do menu consulting, and so it's pilot projects that started in New Jersey, where American Vegan Society is headquartered. And then we take the information that we do and we share it with people nationwide so that they can learn how to talk with their local restaurants as well. And it's just really talking to the restaurants. We have some online handouts that you can print off and give to the restaurants so they understand what's vegan. And people think that it's so that vegans have a place to go out and eat. Really, it's to enable everybody to have the option to pick something that's just from plants. So whether they've become vegan or if there's one vegan in their party who kind of steers the decision on where to go for a restaurant, or maybe there's someone who just found out they're lactose intolerant, or someone who decided to quit eating meat. Maybe they heard that meat is bad for their health. Maybe their doctor said to lower their cholesterol. There's so many different reasons why somebody might choose to have a vegan meal, even if they're not vegan themselves yet. And so we try to provide the opportunities to be able to do that for anyone who might walk through the restaurant. And so to encourage restaurants to add the vegan options, we offered to do an event with them and to help the chefs in whatever way they need. So if they need recipes, if they need advice on where to source ingredients, if they just don't know what vegans would like to eat, or whatever information they need, we try to help them in line with what they already serve, so it'll fit well on their menu. Either a vegan version or something that they don't have yet that would complement their menu really well. And so we started in Fredonia because that's where I live, and so it was a little more convenient to me. But also because the restaurants there say that they do get a lot of people, especially being a college town, they get a lot of people coming and looking for vegan food. And so a progressive dinner, we use 3 different restaurants, and you do a different course at each restaurant. And that's a little easier for restaurants to start out with because they just have to make one thing really well. Or sometimes we'll do like 2 things at one place. but they don't have to prepare a whole meal. And then when they get to the level where they can do a whole meal and they've got, say, 5 things that are great that they're ready to put on their menu, then we're going to do a showcase event with them where we have an event and people go to that one place and they're tasting what's going to be available on the menu. But we're doing a special event to kind of kick it off and get them some good publicity for all their efforts. And yeah, I'm looking forward to putting together quite a few events in Fredonia, and then have other people in the area come to the events. That's one way to participate. But to continue to support the restaurants with your dining choices, with your dollars, so that they continue to put things on their menus. And then the other way to participate is to take this to your local towns, so that I don't have to go to everywhere in Chautauqua County, because I can't do everywhere. So I'm happy to provide information and inspiration for people and work with them so that we can have more restaurants offering really good options.
Yeah, yeah, it really needs to be done, because sometimes you really all there is a tossed salad for a choice, and the only vegan salad dressing probably doesn't taste good. I've had that experience at restaurants. So,
well, sometimes it helps to call ahead. If you know you're going to be stuck going somewhere, because usually chefs actually do enjoy doing something different. They just don't have time when you walked in the door and they weren't planning on it. But it's been amazing how many really great meals I've gotten when chefs have just thrown something together for me. And the other people that have been eating with me go, wow, that looks really great. I wish I had known they could make that. And so that's part of why, for me, it's kind of a natural fit, because I've been ordering vegan things at restaurants my whole life. Usually it's stuff that restaurants didn't know that they could do. But when I look on a menu, I'm able to pick and find different ingredients and put them together for them. And it's a lot of fun.
I remember, and there was a picture of her in a past issue of American Vegan magazine. It was when Roy and Brenda Brunner were running the Chautauqua County Vegetarian Vegan Society. The people we're talking about right now have moved to Florida quite a while ago. But they eat only raw plant foods, and when they were running it, literally Brenda would prepare an entire raw meal for people who felt they could only eat raw foods because of special health issues, like the one lady that was coming had cancer, and the raw foods, I wound up being jealous. The stuff looked so good.
Well, that's because Brenda took an enormous amount of time to prepare it.
Yeah,
and she really understands how to do raw foods healthfully.
Right, right. And she knows how to make it gourmet.
Yes.
Yes.
I think there is a lot of benefit to eating completely raw for a health reason, for a particular purpose. For the average person, it's just so limiting. It's hard to get enough calories. It's hard to stay warm in this kind of climate. I think it's much better to have a really well-rounded variety of plant foods, so not just having the fruits and vegetables, but to have the greens and the legumes that you're going to have to cook to really get some goodness out of them. And if you are really into those special techniques to get goodness out of some more difficult things, then you're going to spend an awful lot of time dehydrating, sprouting, and things like that. And I applaud people who can do it and do it well, but it's not something that I would ever promote, because I think it's very difficult for the average person in this climate. If I lived in Florida,
that's why they moved down there. So that's why they moved down there. So, but anyway, so she teaches, she actually teaches raw food preparation classes down there, and I guess they get a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, I've been to their house down there, and she's got a great setup for teaching classes, you know, out of her kitchen, and having people learn, in a very relaxing environment, and she makes it a lot of fun. She wasn't teaching class the day that I was visiting her, but yeah, I think if you're going to do something like that, you really need someone to
Someone
help
like
you along the way.
Brenda.
Yeah, someone that you can hire to make the healthy, organic, raw foods. And I think it's one of those things that I don't like to talk about too much, because then people start going, oh, I could never be vegan because then I have to do the raw thing, like as if it's some extra level that you have to get to or aspire to, and it's not at all. And it's the same thing with like the people who are not having gluten. Well, there are very few people who are actually allergic to gluten. There are a lot of people who feel better when they don't eat gluten, but a lot of it is because the gluten that they're eating is white flour, and you eat tons of it. So just paying attention to what you eat helps people feel better for most cases, unless you have a real disease. So I try to make vegan as easy and attainable as possible, because I'm not just doing it for the health. That's one area, but for the animals and for the incredible environment that we all take for granted and don't really understand what we can do to help the environment. And what we can do is sitting right in front of us on our plates. It's our choices we make every day that are the biggest contributors to the environmental problems that are facing the world.
I know George Malkmus that wrote the Hallelujah Acres diet is kind of a proponent of raw foods, but he says if you really can't do that, just to have it be 80 to 85% raw.
Yeah, I think you should have a very high proportion of things raw. And I think a lot of it is dictated by where you live and what your lifestyle is, what are the other aspects of your life. And so it's something that people have to make their own personal decision. But I just don't like people to tie it that closely to vegan, because technically you could actually be raw and not be vegan.
Yeah, I've heard of people that go.
No, I don't go that way either.
I've heard of people eating raw meat and raw eggs and stuff, which is, in fact, I bought a book written by somebody who was a fashion model, actually, about a raw food diet, thinking I was buying a book. Well, I wasn't paying the full price. It was at a used book sale, but I remember taking it home and reading it, and it turned out that it wasn't about a vegan diet. It was the woman was eating raw meat and raw eggs and raw milk. And,
Now let's talk about making it easy for people. So so that's why I like this book here
for the kids. Yeah, that is a really good book for children, because her and her mother also tell how to use the kitchen utensils safely in it too.
Yeah, and there's a lot of adults. In fact, Victoria won't mind me sharing that her husband actually uses this book. There are a lot of adults who secretly buy this book
because they need to learn how to cook.
Yes, yeah, there's so many adults who never learned, and then their kids don't learn. And so then it turns out that the kids who need it the most, who don't have the parents who know how to cook, those are also the parents who think it's not that important. So it's not important to buy your kids a book to learn how to cook either. So that's why now we have videos. Kids teach yourself to cook, so they can look it up on YouTube, and so now kids can teach each other. And the parents don't even have to buy the book, although, I mean, we appreciate it if people do buy the book. Because we publish it in American Vegan Society. But it's a very approachable book. It doesn't use the word vegan all throughout it. It just uses all the good plant foods. So you can even give it as gifts to people who are not vegan. Just kids who are interested in eating and having some choices in what they eat. And it's amazing. You can take the pickiest kid, let them look through a book like this, and they will pick out some really good, healthful things that they will make for themselves and for their family.
Well, we had some quotes picked out in your Powerful Vegan Messages book, so why don't we go to those now?
Okay. Well, let me start with my favorite quote, because I'm not necessarily a traditional dessert person, saving the best for last. Sometimes you just got to have dessert for breakfast.
You know, there is one guy who that comes to our Vegetarian Society dinners that kind of has a phobia of standing in line. You know,
I didn't notice. I'll have to check this out.
yeah, I'll tell you who he is. I don't know if he'd want me
Don't
to.
say it on TV.
I'm not going to say it on TV, but he'll go, because he has this phobia, he'll go down to the dessert end of the line and dish up dessert for himself, go to the table and eat that, and then when the line is finished going through, he'll go back and get the main course foods to
Well,
eat.
you know, there's usually a limited amount of dessert. And so if you want to make sure to have it,
You should get it on your
that's
first
a good way of doing it.
line, yeah.
Yeah, people always remember dessert. Most people remember what they had as a main dish. The other parts of the meal are not so important. You know, you got to really work hard to impress someone with a salad and get people talking about it. That's why I don't order salads. I eat them, but I don't order them when I'm out. So, this quote that I'm going to share is from Powerful Vegan Messages. It's one of the quotes from the chapter called Wisdom and Compassion by my father, Dinshah. And it says, "To understand the feelings and thoughts of another, we need compassion. To adequately assess another's circumstances and be motivated to render meaningful assistance, we should attempt to walk in the shoes, hooves, paws, or fins of another, to see things from another angle and viewpoint." So that's one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, that's a really nice one.
It's so applicable to so many aspects of life.
On my last program, I interviewed Joanne Stryofsky and her daughter Mary Stryofsky, who I think you've probably met at some of our dinners. They both had serious health problems that they overcame through changing their diets. And Mary, several years back after she'd become vegan, she actually, I can't remember all the words, but she wrote and sings a song, and I had her sing it on the program. And it's about songs about how she encounters a fish and a turkey and a bunny, you know, and the conversation she has with them, it's a beautiful song. It
Sounds
really
great. I'll have to
is.
watch that show.
Yeah, you'll have to watch it. It would be the last show before this one we're doing right now.
Okay.
So I just love that song. I asked her, I'd only heard it once. She played it at one of our dinners one time, and I asked her to play it on the TV show because I thought it was so nice, you know, and the song just shows her compassion for animals.
Yeah, well, sometimes, you know, it's people's songs, or maybe it's a short quote like that. Sometimes it's a video. There are so many different ways that you reach people, and not everybody's going to respond to the same thing, so it's so great to have a whole lot of tools and resources to look to when you're learning about something that's a little bit of a different lifestyle from the typical standard in this country.
Okay, there was another quote in there that we thought was pretty cute that you were going to read.
Well, we're sharing this one because Gail was reading this book, and she was telling me about
I
it.
busted out laughing when I read that one.
So, my dad was a very serious man. I mean, he took the weight of the billions of animals on his shoulders, and he internalized their stress. And I think the more serious and intense of a person you are, the more you also have to have a humorous side. It's just a really important coping mechanism. And so, I can't paraphrase it as well as it's written here, so let me just
You're going to read it, right?
Read this part, yeah. This is a paragraph from Keith Akers, and so
Where he's quoting your dad,
well, he's talking about it.
talking about
Yeah, let me just read it. Sometimes I'm better writer than reader. Anyway, yeah, Keith crafted this with me. There was a little bit of fun on the telephone crafting this, putting this memory together for the book. But anyway, so this is what Keith said. Jay came out to Denver in 1990 to prepare for the 1991 conference and look at potential conference sites. He stayed at our house. He arrived at our house shortly after the most damaging hailstorm in history on July 11th, 1990, when hail in Denver broke windows and destroyed roofs, including ours. On July 15th, he gave a talk to the local vegetarian group on Reverence for Life, How Far Can We Go? An inveterate punster, he declared that when he had been first approached about coming to Denver, he stated that he wasn't going to come until hail freezes over.
I thought that was so funny when I read that.
So that's the kind of dad that I had.
Yeah.
Good fun. He really filled me with so many stories. In fact, I have to share the other one from Keith that follows after that one. My dad actually wrote a letter to Keith's cat afterwards, and it was composed of nothing but the word meow over and over and over again, and he actually mailed the letter to him. You know, you never know what's going to touch people.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you think about someone who really, truly loves their cat, and if they got a piece of mail addressed to their cat, that might make a really big impression.
Well, I know that veterinarians' offices put the when your animal is due for its annual checkup and vaccinations, they'll send out to your house. They'll send the reminders out to your house addressed to the animals usually. You know, I always thought that was kind of cute. Oh well, you know. Our dog got mail today, or our cat got mail today, you know.
They're more popular than you are.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I remember this one veterinarian's office that we used to go to had a newsletter that came out every once in a while, and I remember it had, they would pick out names of cats and dogs that were their patients, their favorite pet names, and I remember we had a cat named Persia, and I spelled it P-U-R-R-S-I-A, and well, he got his name in the newsletter one time.
Nice.
It's one of the favorite names was Persia. So,
well, I really like that name.
Yeah.
I'm actually of Persian descent, so I'll have to remember that.
Yeah. Well,
if anyone ever wants to name a cat after me and doesn't want to name it Anne, I'll suggest Persia too.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was thinking that wasn't your father's family from India?
They were, yeah. Well, my dad's father came from India.
From India.
A long time ago, back before the turn of the century, and I'm not talking the most recent century, I mean the one before that. Yeah, he actually turned vegetarian when he was in India. And he went vegetarian for health reasons. And then my dad grew up as a lacto-vegetarian, and my dad had the opportunity to go on tour in a slaughterhouse, and then he became vegan that day in 1957. And so, yeah, but my dad really wanted just to kind of blend in with America, so that's why he went by the name Jay, because that could be anyone in America. So he was, you know, just like your regular neighbor.
But his real first initial is H.
Is H, yeah. So that stands for an old Persian name. And he never used it as an adult. So everybody knew him as Jay. And he never wanted any titles, anything. He just wanted to be known as Jay. And but he did keep Dinshah as a last name, which was his father's first name. And it means king of duty. And
King of duty.
He really felt a big call to his responsibility to let people know what happens to the animals. Because when he went vegan, nobody knew of the health benefits. And in fact, they even thought it could be risky for your health. And so now what a nice surprise that it's actually good for you too.
Oh, I know. People thought I was going to get sick when I first gave up meat, just the meat, you know. This was before I gave up the dairy products, you know, and it was like they kept warning me that I was going to get sick, and then they would tell me stories about people they knew that quit eating meat and got sick. And
well, I find that people disguise it as being in your best interest, but really they're protecting themselves from having to think about something differently and to make any changes themselves. So it's funny how the people who are the most vocally against veganism, at least, you know, in my personal interactions, are actually the ones who are the most supportive of it, which doesn't make any sense at all. But let me tell you one story.
okay.
This was from a man who said, "I'm allowed to talk about him as much as I want, as long as I don't release his name." Unlike the guys in this book where everybody signed a waiver. And so these guys, I was allowed
Well,
to.
Victoria Moran and her husband are one of the stories in your dating vegans.
Well, I didn't date them, but
they dated each other.
Yeah, there's success stories in here, whereas the guys that I dated, obviously I'm not with them, but usually we wound up being friends, and so they signed waivers so I could talk about them. Anyway, but I have to tell you one of my favorite stories. I was eating at a bar with a very special guy, and he was having a hamburger sitting across the table from me as I was having a veggie burger, and he was teasing me. Now, this wasn't the first time this guy had teased me about what I was eating, and sometimes I'm in the mood for it and I'm fine with it, and sometimes I've just kind of had enough. So that particular night I said, "Give me your hamburger, I will take a bite of it and prove to you that I love you more than I love a cow." And he said, "Don't you ever do that. Your values are what I admire in you most."
So he really, the teasing was just teasing, but he really did admire,
Yeah, so you never know what somebody really thinks. And I find frequently that in a group setting, the person who's the most vocal saying, "I love my meat," is also the person who's going to come up to you one-on-one later and say, "So, you wrote a cookbook, huh? How do I get a copy of that? Because, you know, I've been starting to have these thoughts." and then we get talking and it's like, okay, so whose meat is it really? You know, and why would you like to try something different? And you know, those are the people that are having some thought processes, and they're just not quite ready to let you know right away. So I try never to take it too personally, especially like if you're on the internet and you get you get people, you know, now that I've got some books out, people, you know, not too often, but every so often, people make comments because they're on the internet. They figure, you know, nobody knows who's commenting on what, and they'll say some mean things. And really, I know that I'm just getting them to start thinking, and taking that first step is the hardest thing for people, because they associate all the good times in their lives with eating their mom's meatloaf and their, you know, fun times at the baseball game, eating hot dogs and things like that. And you don't have to reject all those good memories, and you don't have to reject those people just by changing some of the things that you choose to eat.
One thing I wanted to mention to you, do you know the controversial Daya cheese that you tried to share with somebody and he said he didn't like it? Well, actually, Carl and I, at that Veg Fest the last Saturday in September, we actually had a chance, somebody was serving pizza, vegan pizza, with Daya pizza cheese on it.
Which is a vegan cheese, for those who don't know.
Oh, right. I didn't.
It's a vegan cheese. It's made from a variety of plant foods. Tapioca is one of the main ingredients. It's a decent facsimile. It's not going to fool anyone into thinking it's regular cow mozzarella.
But Carl and I actually thought, and Carl's not vegan, and he actually liked it as much as I did. He actually had a slice of it, and we both liked it. We thought it tasted really good, and we would, if a restaurant served vegan pizza, we would probably order it again.
Well, we're very fortunate that Dinshah it's a Canadian company, but they have really wide distribution in the United States. So it's actually one of our pilot projects with American Vegan Society is to go into pizza parlors and see how easy is it, and then we're going to report on it so that people can do it. But since we're talking about it, we can get Chautauqua County getting in on the pizza project here. So what I do is I go to Wegmans because they have the cheese that you can buy, the Dinshah cheese. It comes in a little package. It's like half a pound of it. And then I take it to my favorite pizza place, whichever one that may be that you have as a favorite pizza place. And sometimes I'll take 2 packages, and I'll ask them if they would just try one themselves. And
2 different vegan cheeses, you mean?
No, I'll take 2 packages of the same cheese. So they have a shredded mozzarella that works the best on pizza. And of course I have like a little cooler bag with an ice pack in it, so that way they know that like it's been kept nice and fresh and cold and it came from the store. But I will give them a gift. I'll usually talk to them ahead of time and see if they'd be receptive to it, because I don't want to waste the product. But anyway, so I go in there with a sample for them and a sample for me. So they'll make 1 large pizza with the Dinshah cheese on it for me, because I want to sample their pizza as well and see if I like the rest of the components of their pizza. And then I leave 1 for them, because they're usually not ready to eat vegan pizza that day, or they need to share it with other people or whatever, so they can plan when they want to try it. And then I'll follow up with them like a week afterwards and, hey, how was the vegan pizza? And so it's been a lot of fun. Some of the places that added it, I just started doing it in Chautauqua County, so we're waiting to see who's going to be the first one. But I'm sure Gail will let you know one way or another.
I'm sure it won't be the one I talk to.
Maybe. But the ones in New Jersey, one of them is in Glassboro, New Jersey, which is a college town, and he was like, well, I'll try it for a little while, you know, see what happens. And he had it just selling so much of it that he couldn't even keep it in stock quick enough from his distributor. He had to run out to his local supermarket and add some stock to what he had. So now he's able to keep up with the demand. And so he's actually thinking about offering some more things that use vegan cheese. There's one in Ocean City, New Jersey, that added it right before the summer, and of course it's a shore town. And I went and visited him recently, and he said he just could not believe how many people ordered vegan pizza this summer. And so he printed it on his menu, he has a sign in his window, and so he's just ecstatic with it. And so we have to remember that people are in business, you know, people selling pizza or whatever they're selling, they're in business to make money for the most part. Some because they love food, but for the most part, if it will sell, then they'll do it. So I'm not going to go in there and just ask someone to add vegan cheese. I'm going to go in there as a customer and I'm going to order a pizza. And if that means that I have to order a pizza without any cheese on it at all, or if they'll put the vegan cheese on it for my sample one that I'm buying from them as a regular customer, then they see that, you know, I am serious about the business of it. I take pictures as well, even if they're not ready to put it on their menu or commit to it. I'll take pictures just in case they do call me up and say, hey, we're adding it, then I've got a picture that I can share.
Well, you know, our local vegetarian society has a recipe that we like really well, macaroni with cheesy sauce. But the cheesy sauce is made out of sesame tahini and cashew butter and a little onion and garlic and pimentos and nutritional yeast flakes, and I'm not sure if I quite have all of the ingredients listed, but it is really a really delicious pasta recipe. I love it.
Well,
really
it's amazing
do.
the things that you can do with cashews these days. There are some vegan cheeses that are made out of nuts, but I've got a really old recipe that I use. It's kind of similar, a mac and cheese. And it's so simple. It's just tomato juice with a handful of cashew nuts and then a little sprinkle of some seasonings in there, maybe some nutritional yeast. and you put it with some cooked pasta in a casserole pan, and it's great.
Okay, we are down to the last minute of our TV show now, and I just wanted to say thank you for coming on. It's always nice to see you, and I'll have to have you on again because you know so much more than what we've talked about on the 2 episodes you've already been on.
Well, thank you, and hopefully we can tell you about all the great things happening at your local restaurants by then, because there's a lot of stuff coming up.
I know. Well, I'll see the rest of you on Fresh Perspectives in another couple of weeks.